Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wabihi nasta'in wa ala umuri dunya wadin. Wassalatu wassalamu asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajmain. Amma ba'd. Honorable our lecturer Momienti and all of my friends whom I love. Good afternoon, guys. I'm Nanda DMS from Group 1, and today we will deliver our presentation under the title Language in Use. And then I will explain about pragmatic. Pragmatic is the study of the relationship between linguistic forms and the users of those forms. Or in bahasa, pragmatik adalah cabang dari linguistik yang mempelajari hubungan konteks luar bahasa dan maksud dari tuturan. And pragmatic is the backbone of the study of language in use. And then pragmatic has come to existence as one of the trichotomy in the study of semantic. And then pragmatic was considered as the waste basket of linguistic. Dalam kehidupan nyata, pragmatik adalah antara bahasa asli pengguna dan hal seperti ambigu kecuali peristiwa tertentu. And then I will give one example in bahasa. Misalnya, Bu, saya minta izin buang air kecil di belakang. Nah, frasa buang air kecil mempunyai makna membuang air dalam jumlah yang kecil. Namun, secara pragmatik, frasa tersebut bermakna kencing, dan pemaknaan ini agar membuat frasa lebih santun, halus, dan sopan daripada kata kencing. And I think that's all from my explanation. And the next will explain by Nurul Huda. And if you still not understand, you can ask me later. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, here I'm going to explain about natural and conventional signs. Firstly, I will tell the definition of language and dialects that are two important points in this part. Language is a complex system of symbols or signs that are shared by members of a community, while dialects is consistent differences in a speech of a certain language that people who have same native language use. In other words, dialect means variety of language in a place or city or village. Then vocabulary differences and the ways of framing certain questions are two kinds of dialect. Example of vocabulary differences is petrol versus gasoline. They have same meaning but they are different in speech. Another example is lift versus elevator. After that, the example of ways of framing certain question. There are three questions here. First is, have you a pencil? Second is, have you got a pencil? And the last is, do you have a pencil? Actually, these three questions have same meaning, but they are different in ways of framing question and they are different in speech. Next, natural signs. Natural sign is a natural unintentional sign that communicates a message. Example of a natural sign is footprint. Footprint communicates that someone was recently in that place. The other examples are smoke, black clouds, smells, and sounds. Next, conventional signs. Conventional signs is a system of symbols such as visual signs. The characteristic of conventional sign is it has human senders and human receivers. The example of conventional signs are whistles, buzzes, siren, and bells. After that, process of getting information. There are three types here. First is perception. Perception is the object attract the observer's attention so that the observer hears or sees something. Jadi proses yang pertama itu adalah perception atau persepsi, yang mana dalam proses ini observer melihat suatu tanda atau mendengar suara-suara tertentu. The second process is identification. Identification means when the observer observe a sign and then derive some meaning from it. Jadi dalam proses yang kedua ini atau proses identifikasi, si observernya ini mulai memberikan makna pada tanda tersebut dengan merujuk kepada pengalaman pribadi atau pengalaman orang lain. Contohnya ketika seseorang melihat melihat asap, maka biasanya mereka akan berpikiran bahwa ada sesuatu yang sedang terbakar. Okay. The last process is interpretation. Interpretation is a process when we interpret meaning of sign and then we form a reaction to it. Jadi proses yang terakhir adalah reaksi terhadap tanda tersebut. Contohnya ketika kita melihat awan hitam atau awan sedang hitam ya, sedang gelap. Nah, secara alami kita akan masuk ke dalam rumah atau mengangkat jemuran. Okay, the last note is conventional signs can have different meaning in different contexts. For example, the whistle of referee in soccer game and the whistle of a policeman are different, even though they are same in sounds, but actually they are different in meaning and different in context. Okay, that's all.
Okay, the next matter is linguistic science. What are linguistic science? Linguistic science, similar in certain respects to natural and conventional science. Linguistic science are bilateral. They consist of a signifier made up of speech sounds, more precisely phonemes, and a signifier, created by the linguistic science, sense content. What is sign? Sign is an action, gesture, or symbol that is regularly associated with a particular concept. And there are types of linguistic signs. The first is iconic signs. Iconic signs are intended to resemble what is represent. It does not have to be very accurate representation of what is represent. For example, like onomatopoeic words such as words for the noises animals make, like meow, woof, and egg, or words for loud noises such as blam for the sound of a gun. The second is indexical signs. Indexical signs are signs that occur their function through a causal connection with what they signify, containing an indirect connection with what it represents and what it signifies. For example, like a road sign of knife and fork that tells a driver there is a restaurant ahead. And the third is symbolic signs. Symbolic signs are arbitrarily related to what they represent, like most words in language, which mean there is no logical or natural connection between most words and the concept they represent. For example, like the word of love is amor in Spanish, cinta in Indonesia, liebe in German, and there are thousands of other words for love in other languages. The last is hybrids. A hybrid sign is a special kind of sign that contains elements of more than one type of sign. For example, uh, a sign containing an image of two, and under that has the words dentist would be a hybrid because it has a picture of tooth. And the next is characteristics of the linguistic sign. The first is linear, the second is arbitrary, and the third is mutable and immutable, and the last is articulate. And that's all for me. We're going to the next speaker. Yeah, thanks.
An utterance is an act of speech or writing. It is a specific event at a particular time and place and involving at least one person, the one who produces the utterance, but usually more than one person. An utterance happens just once. A spoken utterance happens and then, unless it is recorded electronically, it ceases to exist. A written, a written utterance is intended to last for a short time in the case of a shopping list, for instance, or much longer as in the case of a book. The meaning of an utterance is the meaning of the sentence plus the meanings of the circumstances, the time and place, the people involved, their backgrounds, their relationship to one another, and what they know about one another. All these circumstances we can call the physical social context of utterance. Why distinguish between sentence and utterance? Because it is important to recognize what meanings are communicated to us in language and which meanings we, we derive from the context is which language is used.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Irzandika. I'm from Group 1, and here I will explain about the prosody. So what is prosody? Prosody is part of grammar which treats of the quantity of syllables, of accent, and of the laws of versification, or the pattern of stress and intonation in a language. So prosody reflects the various characteristics of the speaker or idiosyncrasies. Prosody also reflects on the speaker emotional states, whether a praise is a statement or a common question, and the other. So here we can aware that the emotional speaker, when he reflects through the rhythm, emphasis, and intonation of speech. And next, what determines the prosody? The determining factor that can determine the context and meaning which prosody can convey. It could be the speaker identity, attitude, mood, age, and gender, or other extra linguistic feature. And at first, it was difficult for me to understand what prosody actually is, because it describes emotion and feelings. Without that, prosody is meaningless. So here we are trying to understand the prosody. This is a very example you immediately understand as soon as possible. For example one, contoh pertama, kata aduh, the word aduh. How do you say kata aduh? How do you say kata aduh when you get pricked a thorn? And how do you say aduh when you find out that you left your wallet at home? That's the prosody. Easy, right? So for the example 2, and here we try to say aku sedih, I'm sad in bahasa, but with a burst of joyful emotion, or while your face is beaming. So the word I'm sad or aku sedih in bahasa becomes meaningless. So in prosody, one word can have different meaning because of different delivery and different expression. So how to make our prosody look good? Of course, with a lot of practice, at least storytelling to children can be a place for us to practice prosody. And the most important thing is that we are enthusiastic about what we want to convey to others, and then naturally the prosody will come up. So that's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, in the second opportunity, I will explain about nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is all aspects of communication other than words themselves. In nonverbal communication, the communicator can understand the meaning of the cue given, even though without any words or any explanation. In nonverbal communication, there is a term that usually called as paralanguage. Paralanguage is our vocal language but without actual words being used. Paralanguage also means something that goes along with language. Example of paralanguage is when we feel amazed of something, we usually say wow. When we shock of something, we usually say huh. And when we ask someone to be silent, we usually say shh. So that we use paralanguage. In addition, giggling, yawning, and laughing are examples of paralanguage. Next, common examples of nonverbal communication. There are 5 examples here. First is gestures. Gestures is movements of our hands, arms, and head that tells a lot about how we feel about an issue. Jadi gestur ini merupakan perpindahan gerak seluruh anggota tubuh kita saat yang dapat menggambarkan bagaimana perasaan kita atau pendapat kita tentang sebuah isu. Contohnya yaitu perbandingan antara ketika seseorang sedang bahagia dan ketika seseorang sedang sedih. Orang yang sedang bahagia cenderung gesturnya itu lebih cepat meningkat, gerak tangan ataupun kepalanya lebih cepat dibandingkan orang yang sedang bersedih. Orang yang sedang bersedih akan lebih memilih untuk akan lebih lemas gitu, atau seluruh gesturnya bisa saja berhenti seketika. Okay. The second example is body language. Body language is how our body reflects our internal emotions and thoughts. Jadi body language ini atau bahasa tubuh yaitu bagaimana tubuh kita merespon apa yang ada di dalam perasaan kita maupun dalam pikiran kita. Contohnya masih berdekatan dengan gestur tadi, yaitu ketika kita bandingkan antara orang yang sedang bahagia dan orang yang sedang sedih. Orang yang sedang bahagia, bahasa tubuhnya berbeda tentunya kan dengan orang yang sedang sedih. Orang yang sedang bahagia cenderung kalau berjalan itu lebih membusungkan dada dan mendongakkan kepala. Sedangkan orang yang sedang bersedih lebih memilih untuk duduk, berdiam, dan menundukkan kepala. The third example is how we utter words tells a lot about what is going on inside of us. Jadi yang ketiga ini, bagaimana cara kita mengucapkan kata itu menggambarkan apa yang ada dalam perasaan kita saat ini. Contohnya, ketika kita berbicara gugup, gagap, atau gemetar, itu menunjukkan bahwa kita sedang grogi atau sedang berbohong. Okay. The fourth example is feature of our environment. That is the way we decorate our environment tells a lot about what we like, what we attract, what we value. Jadi yang contoh keempat ini yaitu pengaruh dari lingkungan tadi menggambarkan apa yang kita sukai. Ketika kita mendekorasikan lingkungan kita, contohnya gaya kita, nah itu menggambarkan bagaimana diri kita, apa yang kita sukai. Misalnya seseorang yang menggunakan baju yang bling-bling, kemudian menggunakan perhiasan dan menggunakan serba bling-bling, itu menunjukkan bahwa dia menyukai sesuatu yang mewah. Nah, the last example is object that affect our personal image and interaction pattern. So, number 5, contoh yang kelima itu adalah hal-hal yang menghiasi diri dapat menggambarkan apa yang sedang ada dalam diri kita, atau bagaimana cara kita berinteraksi terhadap orang lain dan bagaimana image kita. Contohnya adalah penggunaan tato pada seseorang dan penggunaan tindik. Okay, that's all for non-verbal communication. Thank you.